I know you're one of the five recipients of the Stompin' Tom Award,
Oh
and
yeah, right, yeah.
well, that's pretty awesome.
Thank you very much. It was pretty special to me because Tom and I go back to almost square one in the music business because we were working the same nightclubs throughout Northern Ontario, doing a solo act back in the day, and I got to be pretty good friends with Tom.
So I just wondered if you could sort of paint the picture as to how you became involved with Boot Records. Was it Yuri who approached you, or did you approach Yuri, or how did that work?
Well, no, I think there was a roster of people. When I say a roster, I mean people like myself, Tom, and several other that were on the same club circuit that we got to know one another. And I think he personally drew from that group to put on Boot Records. And that's how that all came about. So like through Tom, Yuri contacted me and flew me to Nashville actually to cut four sides. Yeah, really, no kidding. Yeah, and so it went down and cut four sides, and we released them. Yeah, but there was never an album that came out of it. And I think probably, I don't think, I know for a fact, I wasn't writing back in those days. I had nothing really to offer the company. I was just doing cover songs, and there's a reason for that. I've kicked my butt for it ever since, but I don't know back in the early days, and you start doing these things, but you're defeating your own purpose because you don't become creative that way, and that was a huge mistake that a lot of us make doing the American cover songs, and that was not a good thing, but we didn't know any better, so.
So you knew Tom on a different, on a kind of as a touring equal, like in a way that most of us never knew him. So in those days, this would have been probably in the early days of Boot Records as well. So
Oh yeah.
how was he to deal with in those days?
Well, actually, I knew Tom before Boot Records. That's before Yuri came into the picture, and I used to go see Tom whenever I could. If I didn't have a matinee, I'd go check him out because he was so unique. I thought, well, man, this guy is so cool. Like, and I figured, saying to myself, I don't know if I told anybody, but I know that I said to myself, if the right person gets a hold of this guy, he's going to go. And Yuri came along shortly after that, and the rest is history, as I say. But yeah, he was so unique, and I knew that, and I used to admire him working on stage. We sat down a few beers together before, and talked and stuff like that. But yeah, he was a great guy. I thought so unique.
It was it was often described that there was a spark to him, that an energy to him that wasn't prevalent
Yep,
in other performers. Is that what you're referring to?
that's right, exactly. Yeah. He was very precise in who he was, and he was proud of it, and that just came through everything he did on stage. Like,
Did he
it was
influence your
electrifying.
show at all?
Uh, in some ways, yes, in some ways, sure, yeah. I've always been an entertainer, and got pretty good at that.
Can you identify exactly what Boot did for you, like what those four sides did for your career? How important were they?
They were very important because that was just a follow. They were follow-ups to the first single that I'd released in '68 on an independent label, Canuck Records, and it got me established in Toronto with the best musicians and the media, and that was Soft Shoulders and Dangerous Curves. So I was quite well known at that point when Boot Records came established itself in '71. So and then getting and Tom, I used to host a show in Toronto as well, and we got Tom as a special guest on the show. It's the Boot Jamboree. It was on every Sunday nights. I think it was once a month.
Can you tell me, did the four, so you cut four songs, you must have gotten some serious airplay from that.
Yes, I did. I
And
got some
who
serious.
is responsible for that? Was RPM going at that time? Walt and
Yes, the RPM thing, it was all going on at that time. They were all connected with Yuri, the Boot and Tom, the Stomp and Don label. They were all, and they were charting all the records and stuff like that. So they were going, I don't know exactly when they established themselves RPM, but they were alive and well at that time for me. Yeah.
so you didn't write them, so you didn't get the publishing, and that's what Yuri was
Uh,
particularly interested in. After you
yeah,
started
I wrote.
writing,
It's like with any of the companies back in the early days. Like when you write a song, you're just tying your music up with the company because that's the only source of chance they have to get a return on their investment. Because you didn't cost you anything to record, So they had to find a way to get a return somehow. So the publishing was you played a big part in that. So
Do you remember how many 45s you sold?
I don't recall. No,
No.
no, I didn't.
Did you have to go back to the trough and ask Erie to manufacture more because you were selling so many off the stage?
No, I don't think so. No, it wasn't that many. I can tell you that right now. We didn't sell a lot of 45s. It's kind of a disappointing thing, and in one way, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scene that I'm not going to talk about there because it's one of those things.
Politics. It's politics, Brent.
Loaded. Like for instance, I was on one of the board of directors on the original committee that started CCMR, whatever you want to call it, our Canadian industry, and that was in 1973.
And who else was on the board with you at that time?
I got hard copies of everything, and I'm going to process that. Because it's not fair that we should to create something like this and not get credit for it. Actually, Tom Talbot or Joe Talbot from Nashville flew up to help coordinate our meeting, and there were all the top people that were involved in the music business. There were 12 of us that started this whole thing. Even Jack Starr, who was a good friend of mine from the Horseshoe Tavern, he was part of that, and Uri was part of it as well. And the BMI people like Moon and all these people were all part of that. And radio and disc jockeys and agents we'd meet at the Horseshoe Tavern to get this to talk about this thing, and that's how it all began. But somewhere along the way, I believe people, whoever is taking the credit for it, I don't know offhand who they are, but they're saying it started in '76. Well, it's not '76, it's '73. And we're the ones that started that.
Well, on behalf of those of us who came later, and I'm younger than you, I don't know how much, but we're very appreciative of the work you did in those early days, because by the time I came along, which was '77, there was already an industry there. There was already, the machinery was already going. I didn't have to participate in all of that. So I think we're all fairly grateful for what you did. You might not have received the recognition you should have received, but everybody certainly benefited from it. Can you tell me, when you heard that Tom had sent back his Junos, what was your first thought?
I was neutral on that, and I understood. I didn't jump in the air and do any backflips or anything like that. But I understood why he did it. And I understood more and more as time went on when it began to happening to myself. I just seen so much after that because I was more aware and alert to what could be going on, and
Did you think it was a gimmick, or did you really believe that he was in for the long haul?
No, I didn't. It wasn't a gimmick as far as I was concerned. He was in for the long haul. He understood. He wasn't. Tom didn't live for that stuff. He didn't live for the praise. He was just so grounded in what he believed and so patriotic. He just wanted to open people's eyes this side of the border, because we'd been so Americanized with music up to that point. When I grew up, there were not even a handful of Canadian artists that I could hear on the radio. It was all American, and that's how I became who I became, because I was listening to all these songs and learning all these songs, and so that's what I took out in the world with my music, which was not the right thing to do, but like I say, it was just a way of life for everybody in the music business. I really admire what the direction that Boot Records went in. They were not mainstream when it came to music, as far as like most of the other companies. And they were almost a carbon copy to the first company that I was with, that I recorded with, and that was Rodeo Banff Records. And they recorded. I don't like using the word obscure, but music that was not in the mainstream, heard by a lot of people. they more or less would record that kind of music, and and they had a massive variety of genres, and that to me was really important because it exposed and enlarged those types of music in a major way in Canada. Otherwise, people would have never known they existed or ever heard of it. So I think it was really good that they did that. You know.
I find your position in Canadian country music quite impressive, and I think you and I could talk for another 2 hours. I have a ton of questions. Thank you very much, Brent.
Thank you. Great.
Take care of yourself.
Will do. Thanks a lot. You're good.
You bet.